few years ago, I took a business trip to Atlanta. I would occasionally fly around the country for my job. Not a whole lot, but maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I was in Atlanta for about a week, and then had a flight back home. I landed at my home airport at about 9 p.m., and once off the plane, I made my way through the airport over to the baggage claim. I slept on the flight, so I was a little groggy as I stood there with the other people waiting for the bags. There was a lot of people that had been on the flight, so there were quite a few bags there. I waited for a while, and eventually looked up and noticed that I thought I saw my bag. But a man grabbed it almost immediately and started to open it up and walk away. I walked closer to see if it was really mine, and I was soon able to recognize that in fact it was. I approached the man and told him that that was my bag. He handed it to me and said sorry, and then quickly walked away. I took it and was finally able to leave the airport and go back home. I got in my car in the parking lot which I had left there, and drove home, which was about a 15-minute drive. Once I was home, I decided to unpack my things and then go straight to bed. I opened up my bag to see a strange piece of paper folded in half that was on top of all my clothes. I picked it up and unfolded it. In big handwriting, the note said, "See you at home." I suddenly got the creeps remembering the man who had picked up my bag. I wondered if this note was left by him. Was the note meant for me, or had he thought the bag was somebody else's? Or maybe it was all just a stupid joke. Nevertheless, I suddenly had a bad feeling, and suddenly felt the need to check outside of all of my windows to make sure the surroundings were clear. I looked out of the front window and saw a car pulling up slowly on the side of the road across the street. I didn't recognize the car at all. I ducked down and watched as the car came to a stop and then the engine turned off. It was way too dark and also too far for me to be able to see who was inside the car. I watched for probably 2 minutes straight. Finally, the driver's door opened. A man got out, and I couldn't tell for sure, but it very well could have been the same man from the airport, because what I remember of his physical description, it was about the same. But then again, it was really too dark to tell for sure. As soon as I noticed him walking into my front yard, I pulled the blinds down completely and got out my phone ready to call the police. I ran to the back end of the house to my bedroom and waited. Everything got really silent for about a minute. Then I heard the noise of something scraping against the back door of my house. It took me by surprise because I wasn't expecting whoever it was to go to the back. I got up quickly and then ran to the front end of my house. The noises kept going, and I got ready to dial the police. But as soon as I opened up my phone, I heard the back door suddenly swing open. I paused in dialing and ran to the front door, which was thankfully only about 5 feet away. I ran outside from my car and got inside and started it. Then I drove away. After I started driving, I called the police. I drove around the neighborhood until I received a call saying the officers had arrived at my house. Then I went back. They looked around, but sadly the man and his car were both gone. The back door to my house had been broken open, but nothing in the house was missing or damaged. I told them everything I could, but I don't think they were ever able to find the man. The scariest part was a few weeks later I received a letter on my front step with no return address on it. When I opened it up, there was another note folded in half saying, "Why did you run away?" I immediately took the letter to the police. Thankfully, I moved for work about a month after that and never received any more letters or notes. I just hope whoever that was never bothers me again. To this day, I still don't know how he found my address or knew exactly which bag was mine. In 2019, I was taking a 10-hour road trip to visit my family who lives in Baltimore. I drove there several times a year and would often do the drive all at once. That year, I was planning on leaving right after I got out of work and driving the whole ways, which would cause me to arrive pretty late at night. When the day came, I drove for as long as I could, but eventually I got really sleepy and couldn't go on any longer. It was only 10 p.m., but I had been up since 5:30 in the morning for work. I decided to just pull off and take a quick 1-hour nap, then finish the drive because I was only about 2 hours away. I pulled off on what appeared to be a little rest stop. As I did, I was barely able to keep my eyes open. I saw a sign that said the rest stop building was closed, but there was still an empty little parking lot, so I parked my car on the end, leaned my seat back, and fell asleep almost immediately. I'm not sure exactly how long I was out for, but I know I was woken up at some point not too long after that. I heard what sounded like something on top of my car. It was pretty strange to say the least, and I stopped and listened. I felt the car almost move as if something was on top. Then I heard a quiet sound from above the roof. I looked around out my window without opening it, but couldn't really see anything. Then I saw what appeared to be a man's arm reaching down from the rear window of my car. This spooked me, and I started my engine right away. When my engine started, I saw a man jump off the right side of my car and sprint away into the woods that was directly in front of my car past about 20 feet of grass. He ran into the woods until I could no longer see him. I was really freaked out at what I had witnessed. I looked around the parking lot to see if there was another car or anything like that, but it was completely empty besides me. Then I saw the man return and appear in front of my headlights emerging from the woods. This time he had a large stick in his hand, and it was raised up as if he was going to use it as a weapon. He was headed straight for my car, so I wasted no time in quickly backing out of my parking spot and driving away. I suddenly wasn't so sleepy anymore, and drove the rest of the way to Baltimore. Back when I was in high school, I took a trip one summer to California with my parents. We took a flight that landed at about 11 a.m. in the West Coast time. Once we got off the flight, we decided to take an Uber to the hotel that we had been reserved to stay at. The hotel was really nice. It wasn't a 5-star place or anything like that, but it was a good quality hotel that was clean and had everything you needed. We got into the room and set down our bags, then started talking about finding a place to eat. We were there for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and I was sitting on the bed closest to the door when all of a sudden my foot bumped into something. It felt strange, and I looked down to the side of the bed to see a man hiding under the bed, laying on the floor with a blanket covering him. I was shocked, and as he was revealed, he stood up. My parents looked over and were just as surprised as me. The man then said in a loud voice for nobody to move. When he did this, it really scared me. The man seemed to be pretty angry, but then he just walked out of the room and left. He was tall but really skinny and had on pretty dirty clothes. When he was gone, we called the front desk and reported the incident. They apologized and even called the police. They also offered a refund to us and a new room. The man had ran away by the time anything could be done, but we were just happy he was gone.